Greetings to you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. A big welcome to this Business Forum. My name is Peterson Wangombe, a pastor at Deliverance Church Kahawa Sukari, also called House of Praise, and this is DCKS Forums. Welcome. The last 1 year has been very difficult, very tough, spelling doom to the incomes of many of us. Individuals, families, churches, organizations, and businesses. Starting businesses has been increasingly difficult. Challenging times like this can create many obstacles between us and our success stories. But who said that life will be easy? Entrepreneurship is about confronting obstacles, studying their trends, analyzing them, and finding or creating opportunities in places where others have overlooked or even written off altogether. It has also often been said that heroes are created in times of crisis. As others run away from challenges and chaos, there will be those who will find more opportunities to deliver real value to the world. We have examples of successful companies, both locally and globally, that survived. In fact, they thrived during times of crisis. General Electric, for instance, 1892. General Motors, 1908, and even Disney, 1929. These are examples of organizations that thrived in times of crisis. And even right here in Kenya, I am sure there are successful entities that were started in times of difficulties. They identified opportunities in the market and provided solutions that solved real problems. And as they did that, they thrived. In our discussion today, we are talking about seizing opportunities in the business world today. And we have wonderful panelists. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kennedy Kihara, Mr. Bernard Theuri, and Mrs. Nancy Watere Njau. Mr. Kihara, a CBS, which means Chief of the Order of the Burning Spear. That is an honor given by the President. He is a Principal Administrative Secretary and Assistant Secretary to the Cabinet in the Executive Office of the President. Mr. Kihara is also an elder at Deliverance Church, Kahawa Sukari. He is married to Mary Kihara, and who is actually a business lady. They are blessed with 3 boys. Next is Mr. Bernard Theuri. Bernard is an astute businessman. He is a founder and chief executive officer of Acad Systems Limited. He is also a founder member of Deliverance Church Kahawa Sukari. Bernard is married to Salome, and they have 3 children. I am aware that 2 of them are business people, while 1 is a student. Welcome to Bernard. Then Mrs. Nancy Watere Njau. Nancy is an MBA. She is Chief Officer, Public Sector in Family Bank Limited. She is also a certified leadership coach. Nancy is married to Mr. Charles Njau, who is a businessman, and they have 3 children. Please join me in welcoming the 3. And of course, I am your host, Peterson Wangombe, and my co-host is Susan Ngogi. It's a joy, once again, to welcome you to this business seminar. Karibu sana.
So on to the first question, and I'll direct it to Mr. Kihara. Mr. Kihara, having been in high levels of government for many years, and having interacted with other leaders and understood the global economic trends, what is your assessment of the impact of what has happened on the livelihoods of people at both global, national, and county levels?
Thank you very much, Susan. I think the first thing I would want to say is that this is one of the phenomena that was most unexpected. The disease was discovered in China, in some place called Wuhan, and very few people knew how serious the threat was, and the world was taken by surprise. And because of that, there was a lot of panic. And the disease spread globally. It's in every part of the world. Today, the worst hit is the USA, then places like Brazil, places like India. And deaths are so many, now they're in their millions. And because it was a novel thing, it was a new thing, nobody was prepared for it. And therefore, it disrupted life globally. Economies contracted very significantly. Indeed, our economy shrank so significantly that this was the second worst year in the history of Kenya. After 1992, the Goldenberg scandal, those who remember Goldenberg, the way it messed us with the foreign exchange and business generally. The other very bad year was 2007, post-election violence, and 2020 with COVID. Globally, there was a lot of shrinking of the economy, like I've said. Life was disrupted, industries were shut down, and people were forced to stay at home in lockdowns. Even today, there are places like in the UK where there is total lockdown. And what that means is that people are not able to get out of their homes. So they are putting in very few working hours. They are not generating because business is transaction. If you are not transacting, there is no business going on. Then production is low. Global supply chains have been disrupted because there was a shutdown of international air routes. For some time, Kenya had completely banned all international flights into this country. Nobody was coming in, nobody was going out. And if you went out, you are put in quarantine for 2 weeks, 14 days, because that's the incubation period of the disease. And what this has meant is that because of loss of income, very many people have lost livelihoods. There are so many businesses that have completely shut down. One of the worst hit sectors is the hospitality, because this is a contagious disease, it's airborne. So one of the conditions that was put in place was not mingling, not interacting. Therefore, eateries and other social places were shut down, and the hospitality industry sank. And you may be aware, I think we are all aware, that our economy is basically service-based. So when you don't have those kind of services, then the economy has really shrunk. The other very badly hit area was education, the education sector, because again of the congregating nature of schools and other learning institutions. They were all shut down. In the history of Kenya, I think schools were shut down for the longest period. When you shut down schools, you shut down a whole sector. Schools are a business in themselves. Kids are not paying school fees. Those people who sell food to schools are not selling. Those people who sell books to schools are not selling. Those who supply fuel to the school buses and all those other things. So many people have suffered. And I think as we go forward, it is even made worse by the fact that is simultaneously impacting all economies, both very big and the very small. So there is no place to run to. And I think this has been a big lesson that every country should be self-sustaining, and we should really have facilities that can take care of our needs. Thank you. Maybe we will say much more later. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kihara. That's quite a ravage right across the globe, different sectors. But let's come to the business sector. Mr. Theory, as a businessman, how have you and your fellow business people been affected in more practical terms by the current economic meltdown? In other words, what changed for you as a business person and others during this because of COVID-19 and related issues?
Thank you. COVID-19 has caused economic shock in the world never experienced before. In the world, we've never experienced an economic shock that affected every aspect of life, every nation of the world, as it has affected us now, except in times of war. And even in times of war, it is not every nation that was essentially involved in war. Previously, 40% of all businesses never reopen after a major disaster. This being a greater disaster than we have ever had and experienced anywhere in the world, we expect probably that percentage would probably go up to 60 or 70%. There has been great disruption in government. And in any country, government is the biggest buyer. When the government is not buying, it essentially means the majority of the people are not doing business. And it also means money is not available in the market. That means if money was locked in central bank and the government is not buying, money is not flowing within the economic sector. That essentially means there's so much goods and nothing to buy with. What that means is that probably supply is higher than demand. The other interruption that we have seen is the disruption of the supply chain. Even probably the most simple thing like a pencil that could be manufactured in Kenya. You will discover that graphite could be mined in Brazil, processed in the US, shipped in another country before it eventually come to Kenya so that it can be put in that small stake for it to be a pencil. The entire chain has been disrupted. What does that mean? It means all those aspects of business that are derived from the manufacturing of a single pencil was totally disrupted. The other aspect was the personnel. The fact that the staff had to stay at home, and most of the businesses in Kenya especially are not online. It means many companies shut down and were not operating totally. The only companies that were properly operating are the multinationals, but the majority of our businesses that make up to about 60 to 70% of our economy were not able to operate during this time. And that has really hit our economy and hit the business sector in Kenya. It therefore means that people had to be creative, had to be innovative on how to survive during this time. Most of the businesses in Kenya, right, my business, 90% of the products I import. It essentially means much of what I was doing was totally shut during this time. And even now, there is still a lot more that we cannot be able to do. We have scaled down on personnel. We have scaled down on operation in terms of space that people are taking, but for those who are renting. So essentially, every aspect of business has been affected in a way and in a manner that it has never been affected before. What that means is that we have so many people that are unemployed currently. We are not even able to meet statutory requirements like licenses, payment of taxes, because everything was disrupted in between. And that is creating accumulated debt. Those who are servicing loans are not able to service their loans. Those who had goods held outside the country were not able to bring the goods during this time because there was disruption in the transport sector. So there was a lot of, for those who are dealing with the perishable goods, the goods perished, and that was total loss. For those who are dealing with specialized goods that could only be contained in specific situations and circumstances, they recorded total loss. And most of those businesses have now closed. So the effect of that to the business is that probably, as we talk today, over 60 to 70% of small businesses have closed down. That has been the effect to the business sector.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Deuri, this has been tough for businesses, both employers and employees. But are there businesses that you know that have thrived during this depression And what lessons can we learn from them?
Even in times of disaster, disaster itself is an opportunity for businesses. It therefore means that there were businesses that were able to thrive during this time. The businesses that were able to thrive are businesses that were able to adapt to change easily. Adapting to change easily is a situation where if a company was doing trading in a particular product, they changed their merchandise to probably the masks. They went into importing where importation was possible and local production. So basically the companies that survived are companies that came in to answer to the problems that were brought in by COVID-19. Companies like delivery of food. We usually knew delivery of pizzas and everything else, but today we are visually delivering everything. The companies that are doing online marketing, they have cashed in this moment. So there are businesses that have really thrived even in this time of COVID-19. The other aspect that probably the companies have started to think about is regionalized production and supply chain. Instead of depending on supply chain that is worldwide, we're looking more into local supply chain, so that trying to see whether we can be able to produce most of goods and services within the country. And that is why the Made in Kenya brand has picked up more this time than ever before. So that's one aspect where the businesses are thriving. The other aspect of where businesses are thriving are the businesses that were able to have their staff operate in remote areas because they had connectivities and all that. So that has enabled those businesses to thrive. Increased delivery and pickup services, contactless shopping, being able to send out a rider to bring in food. A company like Glovo. Glovo is a startup that was started, I think, in 2018. It was started in Spain. Right now, as a result of COVID-19, it's operating in more than half the countries of the world, simply because of the COVID-19 aspect. So the companies that came in to answer and solve the problems that were brought in by the COVID-19, and the businesses that come in to do that are definitely thriving. In education, the people who are able to offer online education, I expect that we will have online schools that are going to thrive. It will no longer be necessary for you to have a physical school. You can have an online school, and it can be sustained in moving forward.
We'd like to go to Mr. Kihara now, and we've learned about some of the opportunities. Mr. Theory has talked a bit on that, but I'd like to just ask you, Mr. Kihara, are there any available opportunities in both the national and county governments for resources or jobs that can help new businesses, startups, growth of existing businesses, or just some stimulus that can enable business people or organizations to recover? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Susan. You may be aware that this country has has several funds, and that these funds are at the disposal of those who appear to be disadvantaged. We have funds that support the youth. We also have funds that support women, and we have funds that support disabled. And we even have a requirement in Kenya, all government procurement must be 30%. It's called AGPO. This is so critical because the people who are generally disadvantaged have that slot set aside for them, 30% of all government procurement. And we are very particular with that. And that is why when this crisis took place, there were all manner, like Mr. Deuri has said, of people who switched production. I think my best example is Kikotex. Kikotex is a company run by the county government of Kitui under the leadership of Governor Charity Ngilu. And very quickly, they were so resilient, they were so versatile that within a very short time, they switched their activities to making face masks, to making PPEs, and to making other COVID requirement items. And I am the secretary of the COVID Emergency Response Fund. We've done a lot of business with Kikotex. We bought a lot of materials from them, and they are now grown exponentially. That was what Mr. Deuri talked about, where you are so versatile, you answer to a need, and you adjust accordingly. I think what you asked is very critical, and I can take you through very quickly the funds that are available for small businesses by these groups of people. We have the Women Enterprise Fund. This one is an interest-free loan from the amounts of 100,000 to 1 million, which is given to groups. So the women are being encouraged to form small groups. And for those who come from Central Kenya, like myself, know the phenomenon that was witnessed by the Mabati Women Group of the early 70s. They built houses for women, they bought water tanks, they bought cows, and it was so impactful. We are still studying that impact. So they are encouraged to form groups of 10, and they are registered very easily through the Ministry of Labor. And this loan is interest-free. You take a loan of 100,000, you pay 100,000. The other one is the Youth Enterprise Fund. Again, here it focuses on youth. They have to be below 35, because that is our definition of youth. And the loan is a maximum of 1 million. And they also do something very interesting and that has made small businesses grow. They do something called LPO financing. That if you ask for a tender through especially AGPO, and you are not able to service that tender, you can take the tender documents to this fund, and you have LPO financing. Then there is the one that is a bit politicized, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. This is presided over by the county women reps. These are members of parliament. You know, in our 2010 constitution, we have a women rep for every county. Each of the 47 counties of Kenya has a women rep. So they have that. And this money is given again to women, and there is no maximum amount, but because it is a bit small, the amounts are not very big. And like I said, there is AGPO. This is, again, targeted to women, youth, and disabled. They also do LPO financing. So you have an LPO, if you have an order from government, then you get that, you are funded. And it has done so well. I know a young man who came to see me sometimes back. He was disabled, and he got a little loan of 50,000 to start a small shoeshine business. I didn't see him for a long time. When I saw him next, he told me he had employed 12 people because he was able to station this business at the Ngara Matatu stage, which is a very high pedestrian traffic area. And because those matatus commute from rural areas, especially Kiambu side, people come with dusty, muddy shoes, and before they go into town proper, they do a shoe shine. And so this is what has happened. I think basically what we are saying is that for young enterprising people, there is room, there is opportunity. For disadvantaged groups like our women, there is opportunity, and these funds are in very big amounts. The Women Enterprise Fund has a cash flow of 20 billion. The best performing county today is Kiambu, with more than 1 billion shilling money out there with women. The second best performing county is Nyeri, again with almost $1 billion. And there is money in every part of this country. So I think that's what the government is doing. What we also did, and it was very important as government, you remember we did the stimulus package, and part of that stimulus package was to reduce taxation. We tax transactions. We don't tax turnover, it's transactions. So when transactions are few, then there is less profit. And you remember we reduced VAT from 16 to 14%. We also reduced income tax from 30 to 24%. And we also reduced other taxes. The whole of that was stimulate money. And also critically, the central bank. The bank, and I know Nancy is here, she can talk to this more, she is in the banking sector. It also reduced the cash ratio in central bank, so that a bank does not have to hold cash, because that's what the cash ratio does. And what it does is to release more money into business, because the bank doesn't have to hold a lot of it. And that was also reduced drastically. Some companies gave concessions. You remember one of our biggest companies, Safaricom, reduced charges and fees. I think for any money that was less than 100,000, there was no charge. And even when we were doing cash transfer to the very affected, we would negotiate with them, and they would switch off Fuliza and all those other online lending systems, so that the money would get to the right people. So those are the opportunities. And what I believe was also important as I finish, as part of that stimulus package of 53.6 billion was infrastructure. And that infrastructure was also labor intensive. We had what we called kazi kwa vijana. Young people idle with a lot of energy were deployed to do manual work. And what was happening was that every week they would be paid some money. And that kept them, like Kibera. The multiplier effect was so big, because we'll give you 1,000, you'll go to Bamamboga, pay your debt, you'll go to the butcherman, buy a quarter kilo of meat. That is the day you'll decide to board a matatu, so you pay fare. And the macro economies of those places would be rejigged. Because we are doing it on a weekly basis, it kept so many people afloat. We also tried to influence, even at individual levels. We didn't want to interfere with rent, but we encourage people to be fair, to be patient with their tenants. And the impact was, we had many success stories. People who allowed their tenants to forgo rent for a few months, a few people who reduced rent by 50%. And generally, everybody was taking care of everybody else, and the government was in the lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kihara. Those are staggering amounts of money that were making rounds, even during a very difficult time. Probably a little later, we can ask ourselves, how can we tap into this kind of money, and why is it so difficult for us to apply? What can we do to apply for that? But that for a later time. Now, in the business world, Mr. Theory, so that's what the government has been doing, and opportunities available there. But what about the business people? Are there opportunities for businesses to survive and thrive that people can tap into in more practical terms? Are there such opportunities, like some of the ones that have been mentioned by Mr. Kihara? Are there opportunities that where you can advise? Several of us here might be in business and are wondering what in what areas can I tap into?
I think from the government intervention, one of the most interesting things that happened is that for the first time for a long time, Kenya Revenue Authority was able to meet its target in the month of January, even with all the challenges that we have had. And probably that is a phenomenon the government should be able to study and ask itself, how did it happen that even with the challenges and reduced taxes and all that, we were able to achieve and exceed the target of tax collection? I think it was a very interesting phenomenon and something to note. One of the biggest challenges of AGPO, because I am experienced in government business operates within a certain act, the Public Procurement Act. Even when those opportunities are provided, you are still required to meet the statutory requirements. You must have a registered business. You must have single business permit. You must be able to provide the CR12, that is the form that indicates who are the directors of the company. You must have your tax compliant, and you must be able to meet all the other requirements that are required in the tender. One of the most interesting things is that from experience is that about 60% of the AGPO tenders do not qualify beyond the initial evaluation of the tender, simply because they missed one aspect or the other. So what the groups that the affirmative action groups need to do is to be able to be a little bit more diligent in how they fill in their tenders and understand that, yes, the opportunity has been provided, but there is also their part to play. They must be able to meet these statutory requirements. So you will find what has happened is that the people who are experienced in tendering, they have recruited their children into businesses, and therefore their businesses have become either youth or women. And because they're experienced in tendering, it's still the same people who are getting the tenders. The youth and the other one who are coming in are not able to compete. So probably one of the things that we should do as a church, as in response to this, we could probably have a seminar where these groups come into a training session of about 2 or 3 hours, and they are taught how to fill in those tenders so that they can be able to understand how to do it, and therefore open the opportunity for them to be able to engage in those businesses. Because it's not just seeing a tender in the newspaper, getting into the tender and filling the forms. There is work to be done. There is work to be done. It's not just that automatic. So those opportunities exist, but very few are benefiting from those opportunities. You will find like government parastatals, they're always looking for companies because they must meet the statutory, the government requirement that 30% of their procurement must go to the affirmative action groups, the AGPO. So they look around for groups that can be able to, for companies that can participate, but very few are able to meet the requirements of the Procurement Act. So I think in response to that, probably we should be able to have that kind of training. Many parastatals are also investing in training, but you also do not see many of the youth turning up for those training. So those opportunities are therefore existing. They're there. There are many, and they are highly competitive, and they are open, but very few are getting involved in those opportunities.
Very, very helpful information. And you're right, we do need some kind of seminar that enables us so that as many as can tap into these things are able to do that. Yes. Now, Mr. Kihara, let's go to another area. You have witnessed massive layoffs or businesses collapsing with devastating effects on people when they leave and they are not prepared. What would you recommend for that people should do in preparation for times when they will have no jobs or any form of income?
Let us never underestimate any threat. The lesson we have learned, all of us, is that we need to build a level of resilience and a level of tenacity that can withstand shock. And I think as we do this, we also must be alive to the environment. We are aware that business becomes profitable because they offer a need, they satisfy a need. And this is important. When we go to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first need will be food, then clothing, then shelter, and like that. So I think those people who realize this as quickly as possible and were able to convert are the ones who survived. I saw a case, somebody in Nyandarua, who turned, he owned a private school, and he turned the classrooms into chicken, and had a lot of chicken. I was very impressed by that gentleman. He realized kids are not coming, and he had room, and that's what he did. So I think that is so important. And what we are told in business is that every business that closes is an opportunity for another business to open.
Yeah.
That for every big ship that sinks is an opportunity for other small ships to thrive. That versatility, that tenacity is what many of our businesses lack. And I think we take too long to mourn, to get depressed, to get anxious, and in the meantime, we are consuming our savings. I think the speed of reaction is critical. And also to have as much information as available. And I am using the word as available very selectively. There is need to know what is happening. That example I gave of Kikotex, they used to make all manner of clothing, and they're not doing well. But the speed at which they changed to face mask was very good. And I think also to encourage a saving culture. Many of our people, we are told Africa has one of the lowest saving levels globally. Because we have blind faith. We believe things will work out somehow. I think because we don't have extreme weathers of winter and summer, we trust the environment that things will somehow, and I think that is what we have been told. Things don't just somehow work. Occasionally, we just have to make them work. A few other lessons we may have, personally, I think would be critical, is how many lines of income do we have? We have several lines of income. Those people who were employed, but also had some rent bringing business on the side, at least were able to put food on the table. Those people who may have been farming, but they also have some commercial activity that they engage in. So that tenacity again is critical. And I think as I finish, because many other speakers may have some other things to say, I think is just to remember that for every big ship that sinks is an opportunity for very many small ships to thrive. And that your disaster is the blessing of the other person. Why am I saying this? Why are we on Zoom today? We are on Zoom because we are observing social distance. This meeting ought to have taken place in church. What did this do? It created a business opportunity for internet service providers. We have decided that we can even have chat services online. We can do all manner of businesses online. We can have meetings of whatever nature online, including our security meetings. We have them, secure systems, and we still have them online. That happened. Mr. Deuri talked of home deliveries. Somebody decided that if you are not coming to my restaurant because of social distance, I'll bring home food to your house. I'll get a border rider I'll pay him a fee, I'll make the food, I'll advertise on Facebook or Instagram or wherever and have the food delivered. That is a business person. He or she is answering a need that is identified. And I think that is the presence of mind that we have been taught. And it's at all levels. The nation has discovered suddenly that we don't have to go to other economies, because other economies can shut down. The oceans can shut down, no ships are moving. The airways can shut down, no planes are moving. So every nation has to be self-sustaining. At one point, all people in Kenya had to go to our local hospitals because you couldn't fly out. You couldn't go to India, you couldn't go to South Africa or UK. So really, I think that is so important that we really prepare for the bad day. And when that day happens, we don't take too long to realize the bad day is here with us, and we change accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Theuru, do you want to add something to that? And as you do, there are two questions from a youth perspective, which Mr. Kehara can be thinking about. One of those questions is how to remain afloat more for young people who are in entry or mid-level jobs, some of which are not that stable during these times. What investment or saving opportunities are there that we can tap in? That's coming from a young person. Another one connected to that, and Mr. Theuri had mentioned it, but you could refresh us. What are the procedures to access the Women Enterprise Fund? So Mr. Kehara can be thinking about some of those. But Mr. Theuri, now you can chip in on that question of preparation for layoff or for surprise without a job. I realize many men when they left work unceremoniously, they went home and they just couldn't cope with their wives who were already busy in the shamba or doing something. Now the man has no income and becomes quite a challenge. You're muted, Mr. Theuri.
Last thing is to be able to easily adapt to change. If you are sitting in a government office or any other office, one of the things that you must realize is that the space that you are occupying is paid for by somebody else. The cup of tea that you take in that office is paid for by somebody else. The newspaper that you read, all the privileges that you enjoy are paid for by somebody else. So when you lose that job and you go home, the thing that you immediately must do is to adjust your life and just be realistic. You cannot sustain that lifestyle that was being paid for by somebody else. So do not think that you will buy all the 4 newspapers every day. You'll have the 10 o'clock tea, the lunch, the lunch and the 4 o'clock tea, all those things being financed by yourself now. You will realize that you cannot sustain that lifestyle. So the thing that you do is to be able to immediately change your lifestyle and adapt into the new norm. One of the realities that we must state and make clear here is that life will never be the same again. The effect of COVID-19 are going to linger and to stay with us for life. So there are some things that are going to change and that are going to remain as they are, or even change or improve for the moving forward for the rest of our lives. So what we need to do is to adapt the way of life. If you are an employee, understand that there will come a time. Most companies have just realized that number one, they did not need all the employees that they were having. Number two, they have realized that they actually did not need those employees to be at their place of work. They have realized that they do not need the office space that they always had. So what happens to companies that are doing cleaning, that were providing tea, that were providing all these other things? It means all those people are going to be laid off. So we must prepare ourselves for that day that must come. And how do we prepare ourselves? We must think on ways and means of being able to earn a living, even in every situation that comes our way. The alternative is to go into business, and business can be anything. I saw a lot of businesses that came up around garden estates or around that road where people took their cars, they went up country, and they were able to bring in Sukuma Wiki and were selling that from their car. That was a very easy way to adapt into change. Others were baking cakes in their houses and distributing around their home areas. So there are so many other things that people could do so that they are able to sustain their families. One of the key important aspect of business is that a business must exist to solve a problem. And this is one thing that people do not understand. If your business does not exist to solve a problem, then your business will die because it will not be a necessity. So you will find marketers going out there to sell goods and services, and so what? Everybody can sell goods and services. A marketer should go there to solve a problem. You must go out there to solve a problem. That is when somebody sees the need to buy your product, because it is that need, it is that product or service that comes in to solve the problem that they have. So when you are thinking about the type of business that you want to run or you want to do, you must first of all ask yourself one question: what problem exists so that my business is coming to solve that problem? If your business is not coming to solve a problem, it's not likely to stay afloat for long. Number two, you must be able to brand. And you have to do a brand irrespective of the size of your business. And you need three types of a brand. Brand number one is yourself. Mm-hmm. When people think about you, what comes into their mind? Who are you? Who are you in the business world? What values do people associate with you? So you have to create a brand. You have to, yourself, you must be a brand. You must say, this is what people will know me for in this business. The other brand that you must create is the brand of your products. What are my products known for? When people think about my products, what do they think? What comes into their mind? And that's why you see, if you look at the logo of a Mercedes or a Nissan or any other car, the minute you see the logo, you already start to associate or to put a value on that product. Because when you see the logo, you know the product. So you have to brand your product. So when people see your product, they can associate a certain value, a certain capacity to solve a problem with your product. And therefore, it means your product will move in the market. The other branding that you must do is your company. You must brand your company. You must have core values of your company. What do people know my company for? What do people think when they hear the name of my company? So those are some of the key aspects of business that somebody must be able to adapt so that your business remains afloat. If you don't do that, then no one associates you with anything, any value or anything. Nobody associates your product with anything, any comparative advantage. Nobody knows your company for any value. So why should anyone pick on your company? That requires a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of hard work. Business is not for the faint-hearted. That's what I would want to say about business in that aspect. The other thing is that there are 4 things that are required for you to start a business. Number one, the factors of production, you know, the land. You must operate your business within some place. So you have to have some space, either in your house or whatever it is, where you operate your business from. Number 2, you must have some capital. You must have labor, and you must have the entrepreneurship. Previously, the old school used to call it management, but today it's called entrepreneurial skills. So those 4 aspects must be there for you to start up a business. More often, you'll hear people say, I cannot start a business because I don't have capital. Yet that is only one factor that is required to start a business. What if you have all the money, but you do not know what to do? So what we're saying is that for you to be able to get into business, it requires you to sit down and think. The other aspect of starting a business is that you must try to look for business within your hobbies, because you must be self-motivated. You must have a drive within yourself. At a time, business is very depressing. And even when the hardest thing comes in business, you must be able to wake up every morning and see a brighter side of it. So if you are able to get a business around your hobbies, then you will always have energy, have the drive to wake up and go into that business and be able to run it. But if you do it otherwise, then it becomes a little bit difficult if you do not have the drive.
Well,
the question of procedures and requirement for getting the act for business, I think most of them are found in the PPOI, the Public Procurement Portal. If you go into that portal, you will find most of the requirements that are required. And you will also find that the tender document is usually standard for the first 30 or 40 pages, because those aspects of the tender are based on the act, and the act is the same. So if you look at one tender, you'll get most of those things. It is in the appendix where each organization changes the requirement of the tender, but that can probably be discussed in a different forum other than this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deuri. That's quite a package. And so it looks like on our side, as people wanting to do business, we have quite some work to do. We've just been able to get back Nancy, and she's been having some challenges, but we've been able to get her back. So Nancy, are you there now?
Yes, I am. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can. I'll ask you two questions, and then Susan will later maybe ask one or two others. We would like to wind up in another 10 to 15 minutes. But Nancy, you are a leader in the banking industry, and you've interacted with very many business sector people, maybe coming to us for money or for funding and so on. And there is something, so we've been discussing opportunities available out there for people. And there's something about technology that appears to be very, very interesting. Would you like to address that, opportunities available in the area of technology? And the other questions that you can combine them is something about these massive layoffs. We have just been discussing that, and how devastating they are, and how people need to prepare. Maybe you can add your voice on that. Of course, you didn't hear what others said, but I'm sure you have some things you could say. Even if they're repeated, they will be emphasis. So welcome, Nancy. And then after that, Susan may field one or two other questions, and then we'll be wrapping up.
Thank you so much, Pastor, and my sincere apologies for the time that I've been off air. I think my input on how people should prepare for massive layoffs. We've witnessed a lot of challenges as employees. We've seen, of course, out of the season, we've seen some people being laid off. We've also experienced people receiving half pay. Others have been, the ones that have actually been left at workplace, then there are so many changes that have happened. And for me, I think we need to look at the whole cycle of employee life cycle. And looking at how then people join organizations is that you're very excited, and majority of us, we join organizations when we are very young, when we are very vibrant, when we have a very big vision about our lives. And we join the organizations when we are very ambitious. And what happens along the way is that you find that you are either promoted, you get to a new job. Some of the young people, they are not able to really take a lot of time in one job. They're looking for greener pastures. And again, within the course of the life, you find that you need to settle down. Maybe you need to invest somewhere. You need to get married. You need to start a family. And along the way, you find others who discover themselves. They see they're in the wrong career. They want to change. they change their lifestyle. And the challenge comes when we are not able to really balance and to know that time is moving. We've had employees who've discovered that they've been 15 years into employment and there's nothing that they can show for it. So what is this that I believe that probably we may need to adopt? And as employees, we need to make sure that we are not too comfortable, because it has come to us, and this pandemic has taught us that we can never be too safe. You can never ever be too safe. I think we need to really not be comfortable. We need to look out for opportunities, and I've had the opportunity to hear some of the opportunities that have been shared with us by the panelists. We need to make sure that we identify those opportunities as early as possible. Remember, it is not too early to start saving. We need to develop a savings culture. And there is nothing like too much money or too little money if you don't save. If you are receiving a lot of money and you're not saving anything, then it is not much. If you're receiving little money and you're not saving anything, it is not much. We need to develop a savings culture right from the time we get employment, and it can never also be too late to start saving. If you've been in employment, for example, and I'm speaking from the employment perspective because I'm in employment, we can never say that it is too late to start saving. We need to start somewhere. Warren Buffett says that you should not save what is left after spending, but you should spend what is left after saving. So I think for every pay that we receive, regardless of whatever time of the month it is, you need to ask yourself, how much have I set aside, securing it? And I think right from when we were growing up, we used to be told about saving for a rainy day. I think the rain has beat us. We've already experienced such a season where things have really been very tough. From my interactions with customers and also some of the employers, I think the biggest thing has been liquidity. How do you make sure that you're able to place food on the table? And I'm not saying that we don't invest, but it is important that always we have some liquid cash that can sort us out in the time of need and in the hour of need. The other thing is that we need to think about investment. Even as we are employed, sometimes we become too comfortable, especially when you're employed by the government. We know maybe you're permanent and pensionable. I've come to learn that in the corporate world, sometimes permanent and pensionable does not apply. But even for that, we need to invest, and we need to invest in a business that we understand. So if there's something that you want to do, let us make sure that the little coin that we get, we use it as a seed. Employment is a seed for us to get, it provides an opportunity for us to get seeds, invest, and harvest. And again, there's a quote by Warren Buffett who says that never depend on a single income. And I think majority of us, sometimes we depend on that salary, such that if it delays, then everything goes south. We need to make sure that we are not dependent on one source of income. We need not put all our eggs in one basket. So let us also identify opportunities. And it doesn't matter how much you save. It doesn't matter whether it is little or much. We need to start making sure that we save and we invest. The other thing that we need to do is to have an open mind. Let us develop an open mind. Let us not be too closed. Let us not think that things are not about to happen. We need to have a very flexible mind, a very adaptable mind to change, because change is the only permanent thing. So when things are thrown at us, we need to look at the opportunities around such kind of a pandemic. I believe that we've painted a lot of opportunities that were thrown to us out of COVID, and we learned a new term called essential services. Some of those services, we're not thinking about them. Look at healthcare. What can we do about it? Food. What can we do about it? Let us develop an open mind that when we get a challenge, we are able to flip it and to see the opportunity that is there. And for employers who are here, I think it's a high time we really supported employees, and through mentorship and coaching, let us train them as young as they are, as vibrant as they are. How do we train them so that they can save the little from the little that we give them as salaries? And I believe there are programs out there in the market for people who are willing to walk the journey, even with young employees, with young professionals, so that they can be able to move forward. About the next big thing, you've talked about technology, and for sure, technology is a very is the next big thing. And for those of us who are in business, we need to ask ourselves, how are we utilizing the technology that is there? And it is everywhere. Right now, we are using technology for us to have this meeting. So everything now is going digital. We cannot ignore the internet. So we need to learn on how to generate revenue as we use the internet. And our phones are no longer phones. They are tools that can help us make money. And some people are really making a lot of money, millions of dollars on the internet. And we need to challenge our thinking and use our God-given abilities to generate the revenue that we need. So what we need to do is to ask ourselves, what are we using the internet for? Unfortunately, majority of us, we use internet for entertainment, which is good. We use the internet to follow the people that we believe matter, and we use our battles, we use our money to follow them without really doing something constructive. How do we make sure that when you're on a platform, on social media platforms, for example, that you're generating revenue? How do you make sure that if you're on WhatsApp, for example, that you can make money out of that? And how do you make money? Maybe sharing that which you sell. How do you make sure that on a platform like YouTube, you are also posting something that is demonstrating your God-given capability and something that can earn you a coin? On Facebook, how are we using all these social media platforms? And for those of us who are in business, are we still stuck at traditional ways of doing business? Gone are the days where we just opened shops or opened our businesses and expected a majority of our customers to walk in. Everything now has gone digital. Books are being sold online. Clothes are being sold online. All manner of merchandises are being sold online. And we cannot sit and wait for customers to walk through. How do we reach out to them? Right now, there is a phrase called artificial intelligence. And majority of the businesses, they are using it to learn about the trends, the behavior of their customers, the trends of their customers. They're able to know this customer has received a salary, now they can come to this thing. So we really need to capitalize on that and make sure that we're not doing our businesses in a traditional way. And I went visiting somewhere over Christmas, and I was surprised that nowadays, even in the village, you don't have to go to the shopping center. People are delivering, even unga, they're delivering sugar, they're delivering rice, they're delivering all those things. Imagine you have opened a shop, for example, and you're waiting for that person to come, yet there's somebody who has developed an app that somebody can make a request and the same is delivered. So we really need to think outside the box, in fact, without the box, and make sure that we are doing our business in a digital way. This term called Amazon, this time in e-commerce, we've had very big entities that are making a lot of money, billions of dollars, in fact, on the internet. So look at your business, ask yourself, what is this that I can change? What is this process that I can change to make the work of my customer easier? Does a customer really need to come to your office? Does a customer need to come to your office to get that service? And if you look at the financial sector, the industry has really made tremendous progress within the digital space. A customer does not have to go to the bank physically to access money or to get their balance or to make an inquiry. They have been able to really utilize those digital platforms. So the challenge to us is, what is this that you're doing? What is this service that you're offering? Is there something that we can automate? Is there something that we can digitize? And then we make sure that that is done, because we really have to do things in a different way so that we can meet our customers' need. And customers are looking for convenience. customers are looking for efficiency. We are the digital era. People really want things pretty fast. How can you make sure that that is happening within your area of operation? So I think the challenge that we have is the internet we have Wi-Fi in our houses. How is it helping us? How is it generating money for us? And again, a famous quote from Warren Buffett, he says that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. So the question is, how do you make sure that as you sleep, you're making money? And online is one of such. People are checking your items. People are following, people are checking about how you're preparing things. So as you sleep, you are making money. So if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. So I think let's look at internet differently. Let's look at Wi-Fi differently. Let's look at all those gadgets that we have differently. And let us utilize. There's a lot of information within the digital space. If there's something you want to know how it's done, how it's assembled, how it is cooked, if it's a certain recipe, all this information is available. So please, e-commerce, we cannot ignore it. We need to change. And let us not be too structured. Let us not stick to saying that we can only do things in a particular way. So let us challenge ourselves, get out of the box and explore, and allow our minds to wander in the world of impossibilities, because there's a lot of opportunities out there. Thank you, Reverend.
Okay. Susan, maybe one more question, then we wrap up. I will of course ask for a final comments from our panelists. Susan?
Yes, maybe just to thank the panelists for their insights, and it's really just a blessing to see the kind of insights that the Lord has enabled us to have among each other. Also to thank guys for continuing to join the forum and continue to ask questions. I see Carol, Daniel, Michael, Mr. Ngige will continue to engage here and even on the WhatsApp group for the church. And even during the service, if there are some ideas you have, you can still continue to share them. So just a big thank you on that. And picking up on what Nancy has said in terms of investing and saving opportunities that have been talked quite a bit. Maybe Mrs. Njau, are there some particular policies maybe that someone can start, because there are mutual funds out there, there are policies offered by insurance companies, there are bank products like fixed deposits, treasury bonds. Are there some pointers that perhaps you can also give us where someone can start if they wanted to start on that?
All right. Thank you, Susan. I think for opportunities, they're really huge. And for me, what we need to really work on first is our mindset. We need to have a very open and a progressive mindset so that we can be able to see these opportunities as they are being offered to us out there. We need to stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited of what could go right. Because as you've rightly put, opportunities are out there. And even the interventions that we got, I believe Mr. Kihara talked about the interventions that we got from the government that actually even forced banks to really make sure that they're making their laws or their rules quite flexible for the customers. They provided an opportunity. And I'm saying this because we found ourselves maybe focusing and skewing our lending to SMEs, our lending to people who are offering essential services. And sometimes, of course, the returns is what we need to check. If you're putting money into fixed deposits, you need to ask yourself, what better way can I generate this money? It is important. It is risk-free. It is 100% risk-free, and it's a decision that you need to put. So what I would say is that there are opportunities, and there's a lot of information out there. And what you need to do as you look for this opportunity is to ask yourself, what are the needs that are around me? because we need to be offering solutions. People now are looking for solutions to be offered, because if you offer solutions, you will never go wrong. So in our individual spaces, we need to ask ourselves, what are these needs that I can see, and what solution can I provide? If you have some cash, well, you can go ahead and purchase shares. You can, of course, right now they are not performing pretty well, but you can do that. You can as well put it in a fixed deposit. You can as well buy an insurance policy and all that. But I think the major question is, what problem do you want to solve? Or what need are you seeing? That need that you're seeing, please come up with a solution, and you can never ever go wrong. And out there are a lot of opportunities that have also been provided, even within the county space. I interact with counties a lot, and we've had counties that are really supporting the MSMEs, and they're giving them very flexible loans. For example, Kiambu, I don't know whether it had been mentioned, but I would mention that Kiambu County offering facilities, and if you visit a bank, they did a partnership with the Kenya Commercial Bank, and you're able to access a facility at 7%, and Kiambu County is taking care of the rest. So the information is around us. How do we now make sure that we have bankable proposals, bankable businesses, bankable ideas, and go out of our way? And I want to repeat that we need really to allow our minds to wander in the world of impossibilities. Soon it's going to be possible. Let us not be too rigid. Let us not follow traditional ways of doing things. Let us explore.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. It would have been very sad if we completely missed you out. There are quite a few interesting comments coming. I can see some comments from Bwana Theuri there. Your home can be your store and distribute goods from there. E-commerce is the future of business. I can see some comments from Simon Gige. Branding can be the simple message that customers know you are dependable. Our company has benefited from referrals in and out of the country because of customer testimonial. COVID restrictions also meet location manufacturing can do better. I encourage as many as possible to look for manufacturing opportunities. And there is more that is being said. There are questions that we may not be able to deal with today, but I'm glad that we are saving them for future seminars, like what are the possibilities and opportunities for business incubation for youth? Are there policies, guidelines in Kenya for such kind of springboards? This would help youth leaving schools, college to avoid most mistakes and roadblocks, hindering self-employment and thereby reducing youth employment. And several other comments. There's someone who is saying my biggest expense is rent. How do I own a home given the high cost of financing? For instance, a mortgage at 13.5% rate plus hidden cost comes to about 20% and minimal. So I would like us to wrap up now. But before you go, before I ask my panelists for final comments, we would like to do this again, and not just business issues, but also just current affairs. We would like to do this at Deliverance Church regularly. And so if you have some issues of interest, concerns, please jot them down in the chat. But if not in the chat, if it's tomorrow, put them on the church WhatsApp forum, or write to me or to members of the church, elders of the church. It will get to us. We will package that for future discussions. For now, I can see the need for another seminar on how to apply for these things. But already we have been told there's a lot of information available out there, and we need to take steps to learn from one another. So, so that we don't take too long, in the next 3 minutes, we wind up, but let me ask for a parting shot from the panelists here, beginning with Mr. Kihara.
Thank you, Pastor. I think my parting shot will be, I am here with a brochure from the Women Enterprise Fund. I'll give it to you tomorrow. Maybe the church can scan it and send it out. I also have the contact of the Roiro constituency officer in charge of Women Enterprise Fund. His name is Lawrence. For those who can write, is 0721 543 813. And like I said, Kiambu is the best performing county, and the money that is already given out is more than $1 billion. I think my parting shot would be, in one sentence, business is not for the fearful. Business is not for the faint-hearted. Business is not for those who enjoy comfort zones. I think business is for the courageous. Business is for the daring. And business is for those who are not lazy. I am very senior in government. I am tier 2 in the government of Kenya. And therefore my salary is good. But my income, my total income, what comes from salary is about 20%. The rest comes from business. And I think that's where we should all go. At the age of 28, in 1988, I had bought a lorry, a 7-ton lorry from savings, not from any loan, just savings. And I think this is where we must all start. It's never too early, it's never too late. And all you need to do is to start. I think what many of us lack is the decision, the courage to say, I am starting today. And whatever I'm starting, I will work at it. I will not be lazy. I'll apply my mind. I'll apply my energy. I'll apply my time. And it will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you. Very, very important. Bona Kavaiko.
Business is not for those who have nothing to do. Mediocrity is not ever entertained in business. Business requires hard work, excellence, and good articulation and good judgment. You must be willing to risk. If you cannot risk, you cannot be in business. When you want to go into business, you must decide why you want to go into business. If you want business to put food on your table, pay rent, do not go into real estate. That you'll realize the results after 2 or 3 years. Look for business that can put food and pay rent at the end of the month. So the choice of your business is directly dictated by why you want to do the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, very, very helpful words. Nancy, what is your parting shot just for now?
I think all of us need to be very positive about life and every situation that happens. Nothing just happens. There's something that we can look out for that can change us, can change our lives positively. And I think for all of us, let us not spend our time overthinking, because one of the greatest source of our unhappiness is overthinking. We are really we want to see the end. We want to see how much are you going to generate from the business even before you start. I think we need to be bold enough and take the staircase one step at a time, one stair at a time. We don't have to see the whole staircase, but one stair at a time, we'll find ourselves at the top. So let us make sure that we don't fall into this business of overthinking, trying to analyze and trying to argue things. Let us be bold enough, take the risk, and we'll enjoy good returns. Okay.
A stair at a time. That is tweetable. Thank you very much. Susan, we are wrapping up. Do you have a word for the rest of us? And then I will be praying so that we can close.
I think just to keep the conversations going and to continue sharing and building each other up. The book of Proverbs says that iron sharpen iron. So our countenances, the Lord uses them for us to sharpen each other as we continue to in this work. I like the remarks that our panelists have said. I hope we were able to note some of those things down, but we'll be able to share the recording. Thank you for joining and participating and giving your views. I know some people had more questions. I've seen some people on WhatsApp have posted, but we want to say thank you very much for joining the chat and look forward to many more. Yeah.
All right, thank you all. Once again, appreciate our panelists and thank you very much. We would like to do this again. You can see that we have a wealth of experience among us. And if we continue to do this more, we will learn a lot from one another, and then we'll be able to uplift one another from one level to the next. We were recording this. We'll check out with our technical people to see how it can be edited, and then a link given for those who might want to check some of the proceedings. If you allow me now, I would like to say a short prayer, and then we can close down. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for our time together, for all the things that we have heard and learned. We are concerned about the reduced income that has been caused by COVID and other related things. And we have seen many people, some of us included, really going through the thick and thin. But we believe you have a great plan for all of us. And we pray that you may open our eyes so that we can see through what many people are unable to see and be able to pull through, because we know that you love your people and you have a good plan for them, but they have to open their eyes and they have to work hard. So we pray that you may bless the work of our hands and bless our feet as we take good news wherever we go. And for all the lessons we have learned, we pray that you may help us to put them into practice, so that when we are doing this again, we can even hear a testimony of a step that someone has taken. Thank you for hearing us and being with us. And this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. God bless you. We will see you again. For those at DC, see you tomorrow in church, for those who are able to make it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right.